The night over the Katsa plains was quiet, cold, and empty. Then the sky tore open. It did not split like a normal storm cloud. It looked like a wound in the air. Inside it was dark red, like fire behind smoke. The wind screamed for 1 second, like the world was inhaling. A motorcycle fell out. It was already burning. It hit the ground with a crash that shook the dead grass. Dirt jumped up in a wide circle. A small crater formed, as if something heavy had been thrown from a giant's hand. For a moment, nothing moved. Then a figure stood up inside the crater. He wore a black leather jacket, his boots pressed into hot dirt. A chain dragged behind him, heavy links scraping stone and soil. His head was a skull, and the skull was on fire. The fire was not normal fire. It did not flicker like a campfire. It burned steady and bright. Like it had its own rule. It made the air shimmer. The rider looked around with no panic. He did not ask where he was. He listened, not with ears, not fully. He felt the world the way a hunter feels tracks on the ground. Something was wrong here. The land itself carried death, old fear, old pain. It clung to the soil. Then he felt movement. Undead. They were not far. Many. Slow. Hungry in a simple, empty way. The rider stepped out of the crater. The tires of the motorcycle rolled on their own, like the machine wanted to follow him. It was not a normal bike. It was part of him, the way a shadow is part of a person. He swung a leg over it. The engine did not roar like normal metal. It growled low, like an animal that had learned to be a machine. The rider took off. A line of fire marked the ground behind him. He reached the undead in seconds. They looked like soldiers who had died and then stood up again. Their armor was rusty. Their faces were hollow. Some carried broken spears. Some dragged old swords. Their eyes had no light. They turned toward him as a group. They did not feel fear. They did not think. They only moved. The rider did not slow down. His chain snapped forward, fast as a whip. Links flashed in the firelight. The chain wrapped around one undead, yanked it off its feet, and slammed it into another. Bone cracked. Rusty metal bent. Then hellfire spilled from the rider's hands. The flames hit the undead like liquid. It stuck to them. It crawled. It ate. The undead did not scream like living people, but they still made sounds. Dry, tearing sounds, as if their bodies were ripping apart from the inside. The hellfire did not just burn flesh, it burned the wrongness that kept them moving. One by one, they collapsed. Their bones turned dark. Their armor fell with a dull clank. In less than a minute, the road was clear. The rider did not celebrate. He turned his flaming skull toward the distance again. There, living hearts. Fear. Fast breathing. A small group hiding behind a broken stone wall and a dead tree. 3 travelers. They were not warriors. 2 were adults in rough cloaks. 1 was a teenager with a pack on his back and shaking hands. They had been running from the undead. They had reached the wall and thought it was the end. Now they stared at the rider like they were looking at a nightmare that decided to wear a jacket. Demon, the teen whispered. One of the adults grabbed his arm. Don't talk. Don't look. But the rider was looking. He did not step closer. He stayed on the road, his bike idling, flames steady. He could smell their fear. It was clean fear. It did not carry cruelty or pride, just the fear of people who wanted to live. The rider tilted his skull slightly, like he was thinking. Then, behind the wall, something else stirred. A 4th undead had crawled forward, hidden by shadows and broken stone. It lifted a blade, aiming for the travelers' backs. The rider moved so fast, the travelers did not understand it. The chain shot out and hooked the undead by the neck. One hard pull, and the creature slammed into the wall beside the humans instead of into them. Its skull broke against stone. The travelers flinched and cried out. The rider did not speak. He raised one hand and pointed down the road, away from the dead. It was not a friendly gesture. It was an order. The adults did not argue. They pulled the teen and ran. As they ran, the teen looked back one more time. He saw the rider's flaming skull turn slightly, following them, making sure they left alive. Then the rider turned away, as if they no longer mattered. The teen's voice shook as he spoke while running. What was that? The adult answered with the first name that came into his mind, because humans always try to name fear so it feels smaller. A night, he said. A night from hell. By the time they reached safety, the name had grown. The story would spread. The Flaming Skull Knight was riding the roads, and he was burning the dead. Deep underground, far from the crater and the road, a different kind of silence ruled. The great tomb of Nazarick did not sleep. It watched. In a dark room filled with magic mirrors and floating lights, a tall skeleton in a rich robe stared at an image on a screen. His empty eye sockets glowed red. Ein's Uhl gown did not breathe, but he still felt something like tightness in his chest, because the flames on that screen were not normal flames. They were not tier magic. They were not any spell he recognized. They did not match the feel of Yggdrasil at all. Albedo stood beside him, perfect posture, perfect smile that could turn into a knife in 1 second. Demiurge stood on the other side, calm and curious. Eins pointed at the image. Replay it. A servant activated the spell again. The room watched the sky tear open, watched the motorcycle fall, watched the undead burn in strange fire. Albedo's smile disappeared. A threat, she said, voice sharp. Give the order. Let me remove it. Demiurge's eyes narrowed in interest. Not yet. This is fascinating. Eins held up one hand. Inside his mind, panic ran in circles. Unknown power, unknown origin, unknown rules. But his bones did not sweat. His face did not show fear. He spoke like a king. We do not rush, Eins said. We gather information first. Albedo looked as if she wanted to argue, but she bowed. As you wish, Eins-sama. Demiurge smiled slightly. A wise choice. Eins stared at the burning skull on the screen. The rider had not looked toward Nazarick, not directly. But Eins still felt like those flames could turn his way at any moment. And for the first time in a long time, Eins Uhl gown wondered something he hated wondering. What if that thing can judge me? The first report arrived quickly. It came from a low-level undead patrol that had been moving on the surface, far from Nazarick's main entrances. The patrol did not return. A scrying mirror showed their last moments, a flaming line on the ground, a chain that moved like it had a mind, and then hellfire that erased the undead so completely that even their bones did not stay normal. Eins sat on his throne, fingers steepled. He called for a meeting, not a loud one, a careful one. Albedo, Demiurge, Cocytus, Shaltir, and Sebas gathered. Pandora's actor also came, standing a little too proudly in a dramatic pose, which made Albedo's eyes twitch. Eins kept his voice steady. We have a new entity in this world. It arrived through a spatial tear. Its flames destroy undead with high efficiency. Shaltir's red eyes sparkled. Ooh. Something fun? Cocytus's voice was deep and slow. Unknown, but strong. Sebas remained calm, but his eyes showed concern. It attacked undead that were threatening humans? Eins nodded. So it seems, Demiurge spoke smoothly, it may be an enemy of undead, or it may simply kill what is near it. Albedo folded her arms. Either way, it must not approach Nazarick. Ainz agreed with the goal, even if his reasons were messy. He glanced at Pandora's actor. "Any classification ideas?" Pandora's actor snapped into a salute. "My creator, Ahem Ainz Sama, I have prepared a list of possible categories." He produced a scroll that was far too long. Albedo's stare could have cut stone. Ainz cleared his throat. "Summarize." Pandora's actor spoke quickly. Possibility 1, a new kind of summon. Possibility 2, an unknown race with innate abilities. Possibility 3, a world item effect. Possibility 4, an outsider with a unique system. Demiurge's smile widened. A system outside our knowledge is the most dangerous. Ainz nodded slowly. Then he made the choice that kept Nazarick alive. He did not let pride drive him. "We will observe," Ainz said. "We will test at range. No reckless engagement." Shaltir pouted. "Oh." Albedo looked relieved, then angry again at the idea that caution was needed. Cocytus bowed. "Understood." Sebas asked softly, "What is our plan if it is? A force that punishes evil?" Ainz paused. He could have lied. Instead, he answered in a way that was true, but still safe. "If it judges by actions," Ainz said, "then we must be careful which actions it sees." Demiurge's eyes gleamed. As if Ainz had just given him permission to build a whole new set of experiments. On the surface, the rider kept moving. He did not wander like a tourist. He rode like someone following a trail only he could sense. Sometimes the trail was simple. Bandits, cruelty, a man laughing while another begged. Those moments ended fast. A chain in the dark, a flash of hellfire, a sudden silence where screams should have been. Sometimes the trail was not about crime in the moment. It was older, a place where people had suffered and never been heard. The rider stopped at one such place in a forest clearing. A broken cage hung from a tree branch. Old rope, old bloodstains. He looked at it for a long time. He did not cry. His skull could not cry. But something inside him tightened. Johnny Blaze was still in there, somewhere behind the fire. Johnny remembered making a deal, remembered thinking he was clever enough to outsmart hell. He remembered the price, a hospital room, a loved one's weak hand, a voice in the dark offering a bargain. Johnny had said yes. Then the spirit of vengeance had come like a chain around his soul. Now, every time he tried to rest, he felt guilt in the world like loud music in his head. So he rode. He stopped only when the trail ended, or when something made him stop. That happened when he felt a huge weight of sin far away. Not one murderer, not one cruel man. A whole tower of wrongness, stacked and polished, like evil wearing clean gloves. The rider turned his flaming skull toward the horizon. He revved the engine. The motorcycle answered like it was hungry too. Sebastian was on the surface when he saw the fire. He had been sent to check reports near a small town. His orders were to observe, not provoke. That suited him. Sebas was not like many of Nazarick's beings. He did not enjoy fear. He saw the burned ground first. A straight line across the dirt road, like someone had drawn it with a heated blade. He stepped closer. He knelt. He touched the edge of the burned mark. It was still warm. Not normal warmth. It felt sharp, like heat mixed with judgment. Sebas stood. Then he heard it. A low engine sound that did not match any wagon or beast. It came from behind him. Sebas turned, slowly, to show no threat. The rider rolled into view between trees. Flames lit the trunks orange. The chain dragged, ringing softly with each link. Sebas kept his hands open at his sides. "I mean no harm," he said. The rider stopped. Up close, the skull was worse and better at the same time. Worse because it was clearly not an illusion. Better because Sebas could sense something firm behind it. A duty, A rule. Sebas spoke carefully. You saved humans from undead. The rider did not answer. Sebas tried again. If you protect the innocent, then perhaps we can speak. The rider's flames flickered once, like a slow blink. He turned his skull slightly, as if listening not to the words, but to the truth behind them. Sebas felt it then, that pressure, like being weighed on a scale. Sebas did not flinch. He had nothing to hide in this moment. He was here to prevent harm. The rider's gaze stayed on him for a second longer. Then the rider lifted one hand and pointed at Sebas, not accusing, not attacking, pointing like a question. Sebas understood the strange language of it. Who are you? Sebas bowed slightly. Sebas, a servant. The rider's flames rose a little, reacting to the word servant. Sebas added quickly, a servant who tries to stop suffering. The rider's chain shifted on the ground, links tightening, then loosening. Sebas held his ground. He realized something important. This being did not care about rank. It did not care about kingdoms. It cared about guilt. Sebas said, if you are hunting evil, you will find much in this world. The rider's skull tilted again. Then he turned his motorcycle as if the talk was done. Sebas watched him go, flames shrinking into the trees like a moving torch. He did not chase. He only whispered to himself, what are you? And in the quiet, he feared the answer. Back in Nazarick, Ainz listened to Sebas's report. Albedo stood stiffly, her patience thin. You approached it? I observed, Sebas said calmly. It did not attack. Demiurge leaned forward. Did it respond to language? Not with words, Sebas replied. But it reacted, like it was testing my intent. Ainz nodded slowly. He made a mental note. It judges intent and guilt, not just actions. That was worse, because Ainz had too many actions he could explain away as necessary, and he did not know if this rider accepted excuses. Pandora's actor arrived with another scroll. Albedo snapped. Not again. Pandora's actor flinched dramatically, then recovered. Ainz-sama, I have now added new labels. Ainz sighed inside, then asked, what labels? Pandora's actor read proudly. Unknown entity, rider type, hellfire property, not tier magic, chain weapon, possibly enchanted. Judgment effect, possible mental attack. Demiurge's smile sharpened. Mental attack. Interesting. Albedo's eyes narrowed. If it can attack minds, it could target Ainz-sama. Ainz lifted a hand. No conclusions yet. But he felt the room's mood shift. Caution was turning into pressure. Pressure meant mistakes. Ainz made his next decision quickly. We need a controlled test, he said. Shaltir's grin returned. Yes. Ainz looked at her. Not reckless, controlled. Shaltir pouted again. You always say that. Ainz ignored it and turned to Coxitus. You will observe first. If you engage, do it as a warrior. Test its weapon and movement. Do not push into unknown abilities. Coxitus bowed. I understand. Ainz then looked at Shaltir. You will be close. If Coxitus is at risk, you intervene. But you do not chase it blindly. Shaltir licked her lips. Fine. I will behave. Albedo looked unhappy. Ainz-sama, please allow me to… No, Ainz said simply. Albedo froze, then bowed. Yes, Ainz-sama. Ainz's empty eyes stayed on the scrying screen. The rider was moving toward a town road, and Nazarick's pieces were moving too. The town did not know any of this. To the people inside, the day was already bad. A line of undead had been seen on the far hill. Not a huge army, but enough to make families lock doors and whisper prayers. Then the gate guards shouted. A black figure rode down the road. Fire streamed behind him. The people who saw him screamed and ran. Some fell over each other. Some dropped baskets. A child cried and could not stop. The rider did not look at the town like a conqueror. He looked at it like a place that might be harmed. The undead reached the outskirts at the same time. They were not fast, but they were steady. The rider's motorcycle turned. He drove straight at them. A guard yelled, "Stop! You'll die!" The rider did not stop. His chain snapped out and wrapped 3 undead at once, because the chain did not act like normal metal. It moved with supernatural control. He yanked them together and slammed them into the ground in a pile. Then hellfire poured over them. The undead burned and fell apart. The town watched from the walls. They did not cheer. They stared as if their brains could not choose if this was a rescue or the start of a new nightmare. That was when Cocytus stepped into the road. He was tall. His armor was thick. Frost-like air seemed to cling to him. He carried a weapon that looked like it belonged in a legend. The townspeople who saw him stopped being afraid of the rider for 1 second, because Cocytus was clearly not human either. Cocytus faced the rider. He did not raise his weapon like a wild monster. He spoke, slow and clear. "Flaming. 1. State. Your purpose." The rider stopped. Flames rose slightly, lighting Cocytus's armor. The rider did not answer with a name. He revved the engine once. Cocytus took that as a message. "Then, we test." Cocytus moved. He moved like a master warrior, not like a brute. His footwork was clean. His weapon came in at an angle meant to cut the rider off the bike. The rider leaned and swerved. The motorcycle moved like it was part of his spine. It did not slip. It did not wobble. The weapon passed inches from the rider's chest. The rider's chain whipped around Cocytus's arm. Cocytus reacted instantly. He pulled, trying to snap the chain or drag the rider in. The chain did not break. It tightened. Cocytus felt the pull go both ways, like the chain was a tug of war against a force that did not care about muscle. The rider yanked. Cocytus slid across the dirt a full body length, boots carving lines. Cocytus's red eyes widened slightly. "Strong." The rider swung the chain again, aiming for Cocytus's weapon hand. Cocytus blocked, weapon ringing against links. Sparks jumped. Then Cocytus attacked again, faster, pushing toward the rider's head. He was testing, reading timing, looking for a rule. The rider changed the battlefield. He drove forward, straight past Cocytus, then turned sharply. The bike climbed the wall of a stone building like gravity was a weak suggestion. People screamed from windows. The rider rode up to the roof, then down the other side, landing in the street with a heavy thud. Cocytus followed with a leap that should not have been possible for something that heavy. He landed hard, cracking a stone step. The town guards on the wall gaped. One whispered, This is not an adventurer fight." A second guard answered, voice shaking, "This is a god fight." The rider swung his chain again. Cocytus cut at it, trying to sever it. The chain rang, but it did not snap. Cocytus's breath fogged, even though he did not need air. He realized his normal assumptions were failing. That was the point. This was a test, and Cocytus was the one being tested. Then the air changed. A cold, sweet smell drifted in. The shadows deepened, and Shaltir Bloodfallen appeared above the street, floating like a queen who owned the sky. She smiled wide, showing fangs. Well, she said, voice bright and cruel. "So this is the flaming toy." The rider's skull turned toward her. The flames sharpened, as if they recognized something worse than undead hunger. Shaltir's eyes sparkled. "Look at you. You don't even blink." She dropped from the air like a falling spear. She hit the ground in front of the rider, with a shockwave that cracked dirt and shook loose stones. The town wall trembled. Guards almost fell. Shaltir leaned close, smiling. Are you here to kill undead? I am undead. Try. The rider did not speak. He raised his chain. Shaltir moved first. She was faster than the guards could track. She was a blur in a dress, with strength that could rip a man apart like paper. She slammed her weapon toward the rider's chest. The rider caught it with his chain, wrapping the weapon shaft and yanking. Shaltir's smile grew. Oh, strong! She pulled back, and the rider was dragged forward. Except he did not fall off the bike. His body stayed locked in place like iron. The motorcycle engine roared louder. Hellfire burst from the rider's hands and hit Shaltir's arm. Shaltir hissed and jumped back, more surprised than hurt. The hellfire clung to her skin like burning paint. It did not go out when she brushed at it. She stared at it, eyes wide for 1 second. Then she laughed. That's new. She attacked again, harder. This time, she aimed for the rider's head. The rider leaned and let the strike pass, then snapped his chain upward. The chain wrapped around Shaltir's waist. Before she could mock him, the rider yanked. Shaltir flew forward, ripped off balance, and slammed into a stone wall. The wall broke. Stones fell. A human on the wall screamed, "She went through it!" Shaltir pushed out of the rubble, hair messy, smile gone. Her eyes were angry now. "All right," she said, voice colder. "No more playing." She raised a hand, and dark magic formed, sharp and dangerous. Cocytus moved to the side, ready to assist, but also careful. This was no longer a simple test. The rider did not flinch. He rode forward into the broken street. He aimed straight at Shaltir. Shaltir fired. The spell hit the rider's chest. A burst of force and darkness spread. Dust filled the air. For half a second, the town could not see him. Then the dust cleared. The rider was still there. His jacket was scorched, but he sat upright. His skull flames burned even brighter. Shaltir's smile returned, but it was thinner now. How stubborn! The rider raised his head. His gaze locked onto Shaltir's eyes. The air seemed to tighten. Even Cocytus felt it, like an invisible hand pressing on the mind. Shaltir's grin flickered. Not fear, not guilt, but something like pressure. Like a door inside her was being pushed on. The rider's eyes were empty sockets, but the force behind them was not empty. It was judgment. Shaltir's lips parted slightly. For the first time, her voice lost its playful edge. "What is that?" The rider leaned forward a fraction, like he was about to pull her into a truth she did not want. Then, far away, inside Nazarick, Ainz watched through magic. Ainz's mind raced. That gaze. That is the danger. He did not know if it would work on Shaltir fully, but he did not need to know to act. Ainz spoke a spell calmly from his throne. Time stop. On the surface, everything froze. Dust hung in the air like it was glued there. A guard's scream stopped mid-sound. Shaltir's hair hung in a perfect arc, unmoving. Cocytus stood like a statue. The rider's flames. They did not go out. They did not fully freeze either. They flickered, slow, like fire seen through thick glass. Ainz's eyelight narrowed. It is still active? Even in stopped time? That was enough information for a king who lived by caution. Ainz used the stopped moment to reposition his pieces. Not to kill the rider. Not to risk a spell that might fail. He moved Shaltir back with teleportation support. He pulled Cocytus away too. He made sure no guardian was left in the rider's reach when time resumed. Then he ended the spell. Time snapped back. The dust fell. The scream finished, broken and confused, and the street was suddenly emptier. Shaltir was gone. Cocytus was gone. Only the rider remained, facing air where enemies had been. The rider's skull turned slowly, scanning. He could tell what happened. Not the name of the spell, but the truth of it. Someone powerful was watching. Someone had decided not to commit. The rider looked up at the sky, not because he saw Ainz, because he felt the pull of control. He revved the engine once, loud in the sudden quiet. The townspeople watched from the walls, shaking. A human captain whispered, Did he win?" Another guard answered, "No. They left." The captain swallowed. Why would monsters leave? No one had an answer that made them feel safe. The rider turned his bike slowly, away from the town. He did not chase. The innocent were safe for now. That was his rule. But as he rode away, he left a burning line on the road like a warning. To the town, it looked like a sign. To Nazarick, it felt like a message. "I know you are there." Deep underground, Oz leaned back on his throne. He did not relax, not even slightly. Albedo appeared beside him at once. "Ainz-sama, allow me to pursue." Ainz raised a hand. "No." Demiurge spoke softly, pleased. "We learned much." Ainz stared at the scrying image of the rider leaving. In his mind, the rule book they kept trying to write cracked again. This was not a simple enemy. This was not a normal hero. This was a judge with fire in his bones. And now the world had seen it too. The next sunrise did not feel normal to the people of that town. The road outside the gate was cracked. One wall was broken. There were burn marks that did not match any torch or wildfire. The ground looked like a long black line had been painted with heat. The guards stood in a tight group on the wall, staring down. They kept talking, but their words went in circles. "It saved us," one said. "It could have killed us too," another answered. "It fought the monsters." "It is a monster." A captain tried to sound brave. "No one goes outside alone. No one touches the burned ground. If you see fire on the road, you run to the gate and you pray." A child asked his mother, "Was it a hero?" The mother could not answer. She only hugged him and looked away. Because the truth was simple and scary. Something had shown up that even monsters did not want to fight for too long. And when fear mixes with hope, rumors grow fast. By noon, travelers carried the story to other villages. By night, merchants carried it to cities. By the next week, it reached people who did not laugh at rumors. People who planned wars from clean rooms. People who moved others like pieces. In a quiet manor far away, a group of adventurers sat around a table. They were not a big army, but they were strong for humans. Blue Rose listened while a messenger spoke. Evil Eye sat with her arms crossed, eyes narrowed behind her mask. The messenger's voice shook. "A flaming skull, on a burning bike. He fought a monster in armor and a vampire woman who fell through a wall. Then, they vanished, like they were pulled away." Gagarin leaned forward, excited. "A flaming skull? That sounds amazing." Tia and Tina exchanged a look, both already thinking like spies. Lachius gripped her cup. "Did he hurt the townspeople?" "No," the messenger said quickly. "He saved them. But he looked at them like they were bugs." Evil Eye stayed quiet. Inside, her mind raced. A being that burns undead with strange fire. A being that can stand in the same street as Nazarick's strongest servants. That was not a normal monster. That was not a normal hero either. "Where was this?" Evil Eye asked. The messenger told her. Evil Eye leaned back and spoke softly, almost to herself. "If that is real, then the board has changed." Gagarin smiled. "Good. Let it change. I'm tired of losing." Evil Eye did not smile, because she could already see the danger. If this flaming skull knight judged people, not flags, then humans might also be burned. Not for being weak, for being guilty. And humans were not clean, No one was. Deep underground, Ain's Uul-Gaun sat on his throne with a scroll in his hand. The scroll was not paper. It was a report made by magic, copied perfectly and delivered instantly. He read every line twice. Around him stood his guardians. Albedo waited like a blade held in a steady hand. Demiurge smiled like a teacher who had just been given a new lesson plan. Pandora's actor stood at attention with a stack of charts so tall it looked like a joke. Ain's spoke slowly. The entity did not pursue. It prioritized civilian safety. It did not attempt to enter the town. It did not speak. He looked up. It tried to stare at Shaltir. Shaltir's face tightened for a second. It was unpleasant, she admitted. Then she forced a grin. But I am fine. Ain's mind caught the important part. Unpleasant. From Shaltir, that meant the effect was real. Demiurge tapped a finger on his chin. It likely has a targeting condition. A rule. Perhaps it requires guilt. Albedo's wings twitched. Then it will target anyone who harms Nazarick. It will target anyone who threatens Ain Sama. Ain's did not answer, because his fear was not about Nazarick's enemies. It was about Nazarick itself. He spoke in a steady king voice. We need classification. Pandora's actor stepped forward at once. Ain Sama! I have prepared! Albedo's gaze snapped to him. If you waste Ain Sama's time, Pandora's actor froze, then pointed dramatically at his first chart anyway. Classification attempt number 37. Ain's raised a hand. Short. Pandora's actor nodded fast. The flames. Not fire. Not holy. Not demonic in the standard sense. It behaves like a punishment effect. The chain. Semi-independent movement. High durability. The motorcycle. Possible mount. Possible summon. Possible body part. Cositus spoke. Its movement ignores terrain. It climbs. Ain's nodded. Demiurge's smile widened. So we cannot trap it with simple terrain control. Interesting. Sabas stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. Ain's Sama. It saved humans. It may be a force against suffering. Albedo's eyes flashed. Or it may be a force that will judge us. Sabas did not flinch. Then perhaps we should consider not creating suffering where it can see. A heavy silence fell. Demiurge's smile stayed in place. We must not overreact. We do not even know its true target. Sabas looked at him. You know exactly what it targets. Demiurge's eyes glinted. I know what it might target. Ain's felt the room pulling into two sides. Not open rebellion. Nothing like that. But two instincts. Sabas's instinct was to reduce harm. Demiurge's instinct was to control the unknown by testing it. Albedo's instinct was to kill the unknown before it could touch Ain's. Ain's own instinct was survival, and survival meant information. He spoke carefully. We will not provoke it in public. We will not send more undead patrols near towns for now. Albedo's mouth opened slightly, but she stopped herself. Demiurge bowed. As you wish. Sabas relaxed by a tiny amount. Ain's continued. We will observe from distance. We will gather stories. We will learn its patterns. Pandora's actor raised one finger. Ain Sama. I would like to propose a name for our files. Albedo groaned quietly. Ain's sighed inside. Proceed. Pandora's actor said proudly. Subject. Rider of Judgment. Demiurge chuckled. Fitting? Ain's nodded once. Fine. And just like that, the rulebook problem grew. Nazarick had a new section in its files, but no one felt comforted by it, because a label did not equal control. Far above Nazarick, the writer moved again. He did not know the names humans were giving him. He did not care. The world was loud with guilt. The dead fields were quiet, but the quiet was full of old pain. The towns were loud, but the loud was full of fresh fear. He rode between them, following the worst scent. Johnny Blaze sat behind the fire, behind the skull, like a man trapped in a burning helmet. He remembered things in short flashes. A crowd cheering as he jumped a line of cars, the thrill, the stupid confidence, a hospital room, a deal spoken in a voice that sounded friendly and hungry at the same time. Then chains. Not real ones at first. Chains in his soul. Now, when he felt a place where people were caged or hurt, the spirit of vengeance pulled him like a hook in his ribs. He could not ignore it. He tried once, long ago. The pain of ignoring it was worse than any punch. So he rode. He found bandits on a forest road, laughing while they kicked a merchant. He did not lecture them. His bike appeared between trees, like a nightmare made real. The bandits drew knives. They got 1 second to regret. Some did. Some did not. Hellfire made the difference clear. When it was over, the merchant crawled away shaking, too scared to thank him. The rider watched him go. He did not want thanks. He wanted less suffering. But as he rode again, he felt something bigger. A distant, heavy guilt that did not move like bandits. It felt organized. It felt proud. It felt like people in clean clothes making cruel choices and sleeping well. That scent pulled him harder than anything else. The rider turned toward it. In a tall building in a human nation, leaders met in a room with closed doors. The slain theocracy did not treat rumors like jokes. They treated them like weapons. A cardinal spoke. A new entity has appeared. Undead are destroyed by its flames. It fought a vampire servant of the Sorcerer King and survived. Another leader slammed a fist softly on the table. Then it can be used. A third shook his head. Or it can burn us. The first cardinal leaned forward. It judges evil. That is what the reports suggest. A thin smile appeared on one leader's face. Then we will point its judgment where we want. A quiet man in black armor stood near the wall. He did not speak, but everyone looked at him anyway. Black scripture. Their best. Their secret blade. A cardinal finally asked, "Can it be captured?" The man's voice was flat. "Unknown." Another leader spoke. "We have tools. Tools that can control even monsters." Silence followed, because everyone in that room knew what tools meant. Forbidden things, world-class relics, things that did not care about normal rules. The cardinal's voice lowered. "If it can stand against Nazarick, then it can change the war." Another leader's eyes hardened. "Then we must act before it chooses its own target." The black scripture man nodded once. "We will locate it." A cardinal asked, "And if it cannot be controlled?" The man did not answer right away. Then he said something simple. "Then we will survive." It was not comforting. It was honest. Elsewhere, in a place older than kingdoms, a presence stirred. It was not in a city. It was not in a throne room. It was in a hidden place where ancient power watched the world like a tired guard. Platinum Dragon Lord opened his eyes. He felt a ripple in reality. Not like a spell. Not like a teleport. Like a stranger had stepped onto a stage that was not built for them. His thoughts were slow and heavy. A new force. Outside the system. He did not panic. He did not rush. He simply watched. Because he had seen strong things rise before. He had also seen strong things fall. He wanted to know which this would be. Back in Nazarick, Demiurge received a report from spies. He read it, and his smile deepened. He walked to Ainz with polite steps. "Ainz Sama," he said, bowing. "The theocracy is moving." Ainz's eyelights sharpened. "Explain." Demiurge spoke smoothly. "They are sending their elite. They want the rider." Albedo's wings flared. Then they will bring that thing closer to us. Sebas looked troubled. If they try to control it, they may cause disaster. Eins's mind snapped to one memory. Shaltir, controlled. Shaltir, attacking Nazarick. The cost, the danger. Eins's voice became colder. If the theocracy has a method to control it, that method may also threaten Nazarick. Demiurge's smile became thin. Exactly, Albedo said. Let me destroy them. Eins did not answer yet. He was thinking. Fast. He could not reveal all his fear. He could not admit he was worried about being judged. So, he made a practical king decision. We will watch, Eins said. If the theocracy tries something dangerous, we will learn from it. And we will prepare. Pandora's actor raised a hand. Einsama, should I add possible theocracy capture event to the files? Albedo muttered something that sounded like a prayer for patience. Eins nodded. Add it. The rulebook grew again. And still, it did not make anyone feel safer. Because the rider was not a page in a book, he was moving. The rider reached a crossroads where several roads met. A small shrine sat there, broken and empty. A man knelt at it, alone, shaking. The rider stopped. The man looked up and froze. He did not run. He could not. His legs were weak with grief. My daughter, the man whispered. They took her. I couldn't stop them. The rider's skull flames rose slightly. The man sobbed. I begged the guards. They said they had no men. They said, it's not their problem. The rider did not comfort him with words, but he did something else. He reached out and touched the ground. Hellfire spread in a thin line, like a map being drawn. It pointed. A direction. The man's eyes widened. You know? The rider mounted the bike again. He looked at the man one last time. His gaze did not judge the father. It judged the world that made fathers kneel in dirt. Then the rider rode. The man watched the fire trail fade behind him, and for the first time in days, hope hit his chest like a sudden breath. But the rider's mission was not hope, it was vengeance, and the scent he followed was only getting stronger. It led toward human lands where leaders spoke of control. It led toward secrets. It led toward a trap. The first sign of it was too clean. No bandits on the road, no hungry wolves, no refugees, just quiet. The rider moved through it anyway, flames steady. Trees stood still. Wind barely moved leaves. Then the air changed. A faint shimmer crossed the road, like light bending for no reason. A barrier. The rider's bike slowed on its own, not from fear, from resistance. The rider stepped off. His chain slid into his hand. Figures appeared around him from hiding places. They were not peasants. They were not normal soldiers. They wore dark armor with symbols of faith. Their eyes were hard. Their movements were trained. Black scripture. A leader stepped forward. He held a staff that glowed with pale light. Unknown entity, the leader said. Stand still. The rider's skull turned toward him. The leader swallowed once but kept going. We do not wish to destroy you. We wish to guide you. The rider did not move. The leader lifted a hand. We are on the side of humanity. We are fighting a great evil. Join us. The rider took one step forward. The barrier shimmered again. A second group appeared behind the first, holding chains made of bright metal, carved with runes. Holy restraints. The leader pointed at the rider's flames. Your power harms undead. Our enemy is undead. You are the answer we need. Johnny Blaze's thoughts flickered. They think I'm a weapon. The spirit of vengeance did not care what they thought. It cared what they had done. And the rider could smell it. These men had killed. Not always guilty men. Sometimes necessary targets, maybe. Sometimes not. Some had pride in it. Some had fear buried deep. The rider did not hate them for being soldiers. But he did not trust their clean words either. The leader's voice softened, like he was talking to a dangerous animal. If you refuse, we will be forced to act. The rider's chain tightened. The leader nodded sharply. The trap sprung. Light burst from the ground in a circle around the rider, rising like walls made of glass. A holy barrier sealed him in. The air inside felt heavy, like moving through thick water. The rider's flames dimmed slightly, not extinguished, but pressed. The Black Scripture members raised their weapons and chanted. The runes on their chains glowed brighter. The leader stepped closer, eyes locked on the skull. "It can be contained," he whispered, half to himself. Then he lifted a small object. It was wrapped in cloth and sealed with symbols. Even the air around it seemed tense. A world item. From far away, through hidden eyes, Ainz watched, and the cold feeling in his mind became sharp. Not again. The leader pulled the cloth away. A strange light flashed. The rider's flames wavered. Johnny Blaze felt something try to grab him. Not his body, his will. A command pushed into his mind like a hand trying to force open a locked door. Kneel. For one heartbeat, the rider's posture shifted. Just a fraction. The Black Scripture members gasped, excited. "It works," someone whispered. But then the fire inside him changed. Not bigger, not louder, older. The spirit of vengeance rose up like a storm held in a bottle. Johnny Blaze's thoughts were still there, but they were pushed back by something far more stubborn. A voice without words, a law without mercy. The rider's skull snapped up. His flames surged hard enough that the holy barrier cracked with a loud, ringing sound. The leader's eyes widened. "No, hold it!" The rider's chain moved like a living snake. It wrapped around the leader's staff and yanked it away. Then the chain whipped across the circle and struck the glowing runes. The runes shattered like glass. The holy barrier flickered. Black Scripture attacked at once. Spears of light, blades aimed at joints, spells designed to bind and weaken. The rider moved through them with a brutal calm. He did not spin fancy. He did not waste time. He stepped into a spell, took the impact, and answered with hellfire that stuck to armor and forced the wearer to tear it off or burn. He swung the chain and hooked a warrior by the leg, yanking him off his feet and slamming him into another. The ground cracked. A soldier tried to rush from behind. The rider turned without looking, like he could feel the intent. The chain snapped out and stopped the soldier mid-step, wrapping his chest and pinning his arms. The soldier struggled. The rider leaned close. The skull's empty eyes locked onto the soldier's face. The soldier's breath hitched. He had killed. He had enjoyed it sometimes. Not all the time. But enough. The rider's gaze pressed. The soldier screamed and fell, dropping his weapon as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. He did not die. He broke inside. The leader shouted, "Don't let it look at you! Keep your eyes down!" They adjusted fast. Trained. Realistic. They fought with shields up, helmets angled, spells aimed at blinding the rider, not killing him. That was smart. But smart did not mean safe. The rider's bike roared behind him. It had been trapped inside the circle, too. Now it lunged forward, as if it was part of his anger. The front wheel lifted and slammed into the barrier wall. The barrier shattered. The rider was free. He stepped out of the broken circle and raised his hand. Hellfire rushed along the ground in a wave, not toward civilians, not toward random trees, toward the runes, toward the tools, toward the lie. The world item's light flickered in the leader's grip. The leader backed up, panic breaking through his control. "Fall back," he shouted. "We cannot lose this relic." A Black Scripture member reached for the rider with a glowing chain. The rider let the chain wrap his arm. For a second, The holy metal held. Then hellfire ran along the links like water running down a rope. The holy chain snapped. The soldier holding it stumbled back. Hands burned even through gloves. The leader made a desperate choice. He threw a spell like a net, aiming to bind the rider's head and force it down. The rider did not duck. He took the spell. The net tightened. The flames dimmed again. Johnny Blaze felt the command pressure return, weaker, but still there. Submit. Obey. Become a weapon. For 1 second, Johnny's human fear flared. What if they do it? What if they chain me like they chained others? Then the spirit of vengeance answered that fear with one clear truth. No. The rider's flames exploded outward. The net burned away. The leader stumbled, shocked. The rider was suddenly in front of him, not by teleport, by speed and direct movement. The chain wrapped around the leader's wrist, the one holding the relic. The leader froze. He could not see the skull's eyes because he forced himself to look down, but he could still feel the heat. He whispered, "We are trying to save the world." The rider did not speak, but his grip tightened. The chain pulled. The relic slipped from the leader's hand and hit the dirt. The light on it flickered like a candle in wind. The leader panicked. No! He lunged for it. The rider stepped on it, not crushing it. Not yet. Just pinning it. A warning. The leader stopped. His chest rose and fell fast. The rider leaned down slowly. And even though the leader tried to keep his eyes down, fear dragged his gaze up. He met the skull. For a breath, the world felt silent. The rider's stare did not scream. It did not shout. It showed truth. The leader saw faces. He saw screams he had ignored. He saw orders he had followed without question. He saw the line where saving humanity turned into using anyone. He shook, mouth open, trying to breathe. Then the rider broke the gaze and stepped back. He did not finish him. Not because he was kind. Because the rider chose a different punishment. He left the leader alive with his guilt. The leader fell to his knees, shaking. Black scripture members hesitated. They wanted to strike. But they were trained too. They saw the broken barrier. They saw the burned runes. They saw their leader on the ground. And they saw the rider still standing, flames steady, unafraid. They chose retreat. One warrior grabbed the relic from under the rider's boot with a fast hand and pulled it back. Careful, like touching a snake. They backed away into the trees, dragging their wounded and their shaken. The leader was pulled too, still trembling. Before he vanished, he looked back once. The rider stood alone in the road, fire lighting the leaves. The leader whispered, barely audible, "What are you?" The rider did not answer. He mounted the bike, and he rode forward, deeper into their lands, because now he could smell something even stronger. Not just soldiers, not just leaders. A place where the world's rules were being twisted. A place where control was stored like a tool on a shelf. Far away, inside Nazarick, Ainz gripped the arm of his throne. He did not need blood to feel cold. He watched the relic's light. He watched the attempt to control the rider. He watched the rider resist. And one thought repeated in his head like a drum. If that relic can reach him even a little, it can reach us. Demiurge spoke, voice smooth, fascinating. The theocracy has confirmed its strategy. Albedo's voice shook with anger. They dared to use such a thing. They dared to touch a power that could threaten Ein Sama. Sibas looked sick. They tried to chain it like a beast. Cositus spoke slowly. The rider did not chase. He chose judgment. Ainz's eyelights dimmed slightly in thought. The rider had not killed everyone. He had broken them. That meant he chose punishment based on guilt, not based on convenience. That was dangerous in a way spells were not. Pandora's actor raised a hand. Ian Zasama, shall I update the files? Albedo snapped. Now is not the time. Ines lifted a hand, stopping both of them. Yes, Ines said quietly. Update them. He stared at the scrying image of the rider riding deeper toward human secrets. Ines's voice became colder. We will prepare countermeasures. And we will watch the rider's path. Demiurge smiled. Because if he keeps following sin. Ines finished the thought without meaning to. Then eventually, he will follow it to us. The room went silent again, because no one could deny it. And somewhere far above, an ancient dragon lord watched the same moving flame and made his own quiet decision. The board was changing, and the next moves would not belong to small players anymore. 2 weeks passed, and the roads learned a new rule. If the night was quiet and a low engine sound rolled over the hills, people stayed inside. They barred doors. They whispered prayers. Some prayed to be saved. Some prayed not to be noticed. Because the Flaming Skull Knight did not ride for money. He rode for guilt. Ghost Rider moved through the dark like a patrol no king had hired. One night, he appeared near a farm where a cruel man beat his workers and laughed about it. The man's laugh stopped when the firelight hit the barn door. The next morning, the workers found the man alive, curled in the dirt, shaking and unable to meet anyone's eyes. He could talk, but every word sounded like fear. Another night, Ghost Rider found a wagon full of stolen supplies. The thieves had taken medicine from a village that needed it. He did not burn the medicine. He burned the thieves' weapons. He wrapped his chain around the wagon and dragged it back to the village gate without speaking once. The guards did not dare stop him. They only watched the burning line in the road fade behind him. Every time he saved someone, he scared them too. Every time he punished someone, the story grew. People began to argue about him in taverns. He's a hero, one said. He's a demon, another answered. He burns undead. So? He might burn us next. I heard he looked at a soldier, and the soldier screamed like his soul was on fire. That's not saving. That's a curse. No one agreed on what he was, but everyone agreed on one thing. He was real, and the biggest powers in the world were listening. In Nazareth, the reports never stopped. Ines Ul Gaun sat in his private room with scrolls spread across a long table. Each scroll held a clean summary, where the rider appeared, what he did, who was hurt, who was spared. Ines did not blink. He did not sigh. But inside his mind, he was doing both. He is stable, Ines thought. He follows patterns. That should have been comforting. It was not. Because the pattern was simple. He went where suffering was sharp. And Nazareth had created suffering on purpose more than once. Albedo stood nearby, arms folded, eyes hard. Einsama, he is moving like an inspector. He is learning the world. Demiurge stood on the other side, hands behind his back, smiling with polite interest. He is also teaching the world. Fear is a tool. He uses it well. Sebas was present too, quiet and steady. Ines tapped a finger on one report. He avoided collateral damage, Ines said. He did not burn buildings. He did not harm children. He did not chase enemies into crowds. Demiurge nodded. So he has rules. Albedo's voice sharpened. Rules can change. Ines stared at the papers. In his head, he was trying to do what he always did. He was trying to make an unknown thing fit into a box. Pandora's actor burst in with a stack of charts again, like he had been waiting outside the door for the perfect moment. Sama! I have created a new classification model! Albedo's head turned slowly. If you... Ines lifted a hand. Show me. Pandora's actor unrolled a chart across the table. It had arrows, circles, and bold names like Rider Event Type A and Rider Event Type B. Ainz stared at it. Demiurge leaned closer, amused. Sebas looked confused. Albedo looked offended that paper dared to exist in the same room as Ainz. Pandora's actor pointed dramatically. When local suffering is high, the rider appears within 1 to 3 hours. When theocracy activity increases, the rider's path bends toward it. He does not respond to bribes. He does not respond to threats. He responds to... Ainz finished the sentence quietly. Guilt. Pandora's actor froze, then nodded fast. Yes. Exactly. Ainz pushed the chart aside. He did not hate the effort. He needed it. But it still did not solve the core problem. A force that judges guilt does not care about politics. And Nazarick was politics in its purest form. Demiurge's voice turned softer. Ainz Sama. There is another pattern. Ainz looked at him. Demiurge tapped the report about the theocracy capture attempt. He resisted their control, strongly. He also chose not to kill their leader. Albedo sneered. Mercy. No, Demiurge said, still smiling. Selection. He punished in a way that fit his goal. Sebas nodded slowly. He left a guilty man alive with guilt. Ainz's mind flashed to Shaltir again. Control. Chains. A servant turned into a weapon. Ainz spoke carefully. If the theocracy tries to control him again, and succeeds even for a moment, it could become a disaster for all sides. Albedo leaned forward. Then we must destroy the theocracy. Ainz did not answer right away. He was thinking about another option. Not destruction. Containment. Not by chains. By choices. Ainz looked at Sebas. Sebas. Yes, Ainz. Sama. Ainz chose his words with care. You were the only one who spoke to him without a fight. Sebas nodded. Briefly. Ainz leaned back slightly. Could you speak to him again? Albedo's eyes widened. Ainz Sama. Ainz raised a hand. This is not surrender. This is information. Demiurge's smile widened. A direct conversation could reveal his triggers. Sebas frowned at Demiurge, then looked back to Ainz. I can try, but I cannot promise he will answer. I know, Ainz said. Then Ainz did something that would have shocked most enemies. He admitted a truth, but only in the safest way. This rider is not something we can ignore, Ainz said. If we treat him like a monster to be hunted, we may push him into becoming our enemy. Albedo's jaw tightened. Demiurge's eyes gleamed. Sebas simply bowed. Understood. Ainz stared at the reports again. He could feel his own king mask holding steady, even as his thoughts ran. If he judges guilt, does he judge intent? Does he judge remorse? Does he judge necessity? Ainz had used the word necessary too many times. He decided it was time to stop pretending that distance would solve it. It was time to meet the fire, but on his terms. Sebas did not go alone, not because he was afraid, because Nazarick was cautious. Ainz provided tools, scrying distance, teleport anchors, emergency retrieval. And one more thing, Ainz sent Pandora's actor too, but under strict orders. You will not speak unless I order it, Ainz said. Pandora's actor saluted so hard he almost toppled. Yes, my supreme. Yes, Ainz Sama, Albedo muttered. This is a bad idea. Ainz ignored it. They chose a meeting place far from towns. Old ruins, broken stone, no civilians. Sebas arrived first. He stood in the open, hands calm at his sides. Pandora's actor hid nearby, masked by magic, ready to copy a form if needed. Then the engine sound came. Low, steady. Firelight crawled along the ruined stones. Ghost Rider rolled into the clearing and stopped. His flames threw moving shadows across the broken walls. Sebas did not bow this time. He only spoke clearly. You came, Sebas said. The rider stayed still. Sebas could feel that invisible pressure again, like a scale being held near his chest. Sebas did not fight it. He said the truth. I am not here to trap you. The rider's chain shifted slightly on the ground. Sebas continued. There are people in this world trying to control you. The skull turned a fraction, listening. Sebas took a slow step forward, then stopped. My master wants to speak to you. The flames rose a little. Not anger. Attention. Sebas added quickly. Not to chain you, not to own you, to make a proposal. For a long moment, the only sound was the motorcycle's low rumble and the crackle of fire. Then the rider did something small. He lifted one hand and pointed at Sebas. Then he pointed at the empty air beside Sebas. A question. Where is he? Sebas's eyes narrowed. He will not show his true location. He is careful. You understand, careful. The rider did not nod, but the flames steadied again. A cold wind moved through the ruins. Then a new presence appeared. Not a teleport flash. Not a huge, dramatic entrance. A simple shift, like a shadow becoming solid. Ainz Ualgaun stood there, robed, staff in hand, red eye lights watching. Not the real Ainz. A projection, a controlled body, a safe distance away if needed. But still Ainz's voice, still Ainz's mind. Ainz spoke first, calm and royal. You are not from this world. Ghost Rider's skull turned toward him. The air tightened again, stronger now. Ainz felt it even through magic, that pressure of being measured. Ainz kept his posture steady. He knew what he looked like, an undead king. He knew what Ghost Rider would smell. Death and control. Ainz continued. You have fought my servants. You protected humans. You resisted the theocracy. Ghost Rider did not answer. Ainz took that silence as permission to continue. I will be direct, Ainz said. The theocracy has tools that can control powerful beings. They have already used such tools once. They will try again. Ghost Rider's chain scraped against stone as it dragged forward by a few inches. Ainz felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. He pushed on. If they succeed, even briefly, you will become a weapon in their hands. That threatens humans, and it threatens my nation. Ghost Rider's flames flickered. Johnny Blaze's thoughts stirred behind the fire. He's talking like he cares? Is it real? Or is it a trick? The spirit of vengeance did not care about speeches. It cared about truth. Ghost Rider stepped forward one slow step. Ainz did not retreat. Not because he was fearless, because retreat here would look like weakness. And weakness invited tests. Ainz asked, What do you want? Ghost Rider did not speak. He lifted his chain and let it hang between them. Then he pointed the chain toward the ground, toward the world. A simple message. Less suffering. Ainz understood. He also understood the problem. Ainz's empire was built on fear and power. He could reduce suffering in some places, but he also used pain as a tool. Ainz chose honesty that still protected him. I can offer you information, Ainz said. I can tell you where the theocracy keeps its control tools. I can tell you where their elite squads move. I can help you avoid traps. Ghost Rider's skull tilted. Ainz continued. In return, I ask you for one thing. Albedo's voice echoed in Ainz's memory. Don't negotiate. Destroy. Ainz ignored the memory. He finished, Don't treat my nation as your primary target. The air in the ruins felt heavier. Sebas's eyes widened slightly. Pandora's actor, hidden, nearly burst out laughing at the boldness, then stopped himself. Ghost Rider stepped closer. The flames lit Ainz's skull face in bright orange. Ghost Rider's empty eyes locked onto Ainz. Ainz felt the pressure spike even through his spell. It was as if the rider's gaze was trying to reach behind the bones, behind the undead immunity, behind the king mask, to the one thing Ainz could not fully protect, his choices. Ainz spoke quickly, before the silence became a trap. I know what you are thinking. I know what you see. But understand this world. It is cruel. If I do not control it, someone else will. Ghost Rider's flames flared. Johnny Blaze's memory flashed again. A deal, a voice promising control and safety. A choice that felt smart in the moment. A choice that became a curse. Ghost Rider's chain tightened around his fist. He took another step. Ainz did not retreat, but he activated another layer of protection silently. A dark veil around his eyes. Not blindness. A filter. Because Ainz had learned something from the theocracy fight. Do not let him lock onto your gaze. Ghost Rider leaned in. For 1 second, it looked like he might use that stare again. The punishment stare. The thing that made even strong souls shake. But the veil made it harder for their eyes to meet directly. Ainz's heart did not beat, yet he still felt like it skipped. Ghost Rider paused. He could feel the block. Not a wall that stopped him forever, but a tactic. A proof that this skeleton king was not stupid. Ghost Rider did not attack. Instead, he turned his skull slightly and looked past Ainz. At Sebas. Then back at Ainz. A simple comparison. This one speaks to protect. You speak to control. Ainz stiffened. He answered quieter. Control prevents chaos. Ghost Rider finally spoke. His voice was not loud. It was rough, like gravel under a boot. Control, the Rider said, doesn't clean blood. The sentence hit harder than a spell, because it was simple, because it was true. Ainz's voice hardened again, using the king mask as armor. You think you are the only judge in the world. Ghost Rider's flames rose. No, he said. I'm the one that comes. Sebas felt his throat go dry. He was watching two forces that did not fit normal rules. Ainz tried one more time, careful. Then let me give you a target that deserves you. Ghost Rider did not say yes. He did not say no. He turned his skull toward the horizon, toward the direction of the theocracy's hidden power. Then he pointed one burning finger back at Ainz. A warning. I'm coming for them. But I'm watching you too. Ainz's eyelights narrowed. He could live with that. He could plan around that. Maybe. Ainz nodded once. Very well. Ghost Rider mounted his bike. He did not accept a handshake. He did not accept an alliance. He accepted only one thing. Information in the air. The truth that the theocracy was a real danger. As he started to ride away, Pandora's actor could not help himself. He stepped out of hiding, still disguised as a human scholar, holding a clipboard like it was a holy book. He called after the rider. Excuse me, sir, for our records. Would you prefer Rider of Judgment or Hell's Enforcer? Albedo was not here, but Sebas could still imagine her rage. Ghost Rider stopped. For a long moment he stared at Pandora's actor. Pandora's actor froze, suddenly regretting everything. Then Ghost Rider said one word. Rider. And he rode off. Pandora's actor exhaled like he had been holding his breath for a year. Ainz's projection faded. Sebas stood alone in the ruins, staring at the burning tracks that slowly dimmed. He whispered, "This is not peace." No one answered, because it wasn't. It was a line drawn in fire. The next offer came from someone who did not wear a crown in public. Ghost Rider felt it as he rode. Not a smell of guilt, a pressure of attention, old attention. Like a giant eye had opened far away. He stopped on a cliff road at dusk. The sky was red and orange. The land below was darkening. A figure stood on the road ahead. Not a peasant, not a soldier. Armor shaped like a warrior from a legend. The armor moved like a living thing. But the rider could tell there was something strange about it. It was not a full body. It was a puppet, a remote shell. Inside, an ancient mind watched. The armor spoke in a voice that sounded calm and tired. "Flaming One," it said, "you are not part of this world." Ghost Rider did not answer. The armor continued. "I have watched this world for a long time. I have watched monsters rise." The armor lifted its hand and pointed toward the direction of Nazarick. "That one is the worst kind of monster. It wears intelligence like a mask and calls it order." Ghost Rider's flames flickered. The armor spoke with steady confidence. "Help me destroy it." Johnny Blaze's thoughts stirred. Destroy Nazarick. Save people. Simple. The spirit of vengeance did not fall for simple. Ghost Rider stepped forward. The armor did not flinch. It was brave, or it had no fear because it was not truly here. Ghost Rider's voice was low. "You want a weapon?" The armor's head tilted. "I want a solution." Ghost Rider pointed down at the world. "I don't do politics." The armor's voice sharpened slightly. "This is not politics. This is survival." Ghost Rider's flames rose. "Survival," he said, "is what people say right before they do evil." The armor went still. Then it spoke more carefully. "You judge by guilt. Then judge him. Judge the Sorcerer King." Ghost Rider stared at the armor. He could feel the truth behind it. This ancient watcher feared Nazarick. That fear was not fake. But fear could still lead to cruel choices. Ghost Rider said, "I judge what I see." The armor asked, "Then what will you do?" Ghost Rider looked toward the distant darkness where Nazarick hid. Then he looked toward the lands where humans hid control tools and called it faith. Then he looked back at the armor. "I'll ride," he said. The armor's voice sounded almost angry. "That is not enough." Ghost Rider's skull flames burned steady. "It's what I am." For a moment, the armor did not speak. Then it said something quieter. "If you will not join me, then stay out of my way." Ghost Rider did not promise that either. He turned his bike slowly. Before he left, he said one more thing. "If you bring war to innocence," he warned, "I'll come for you too." The armor went still again. Ghost Rider rode away. And behind him, the armor's eyes dimmed like a candle being covered. The ancient watcher had not gotten a soldier. He had gotten a problem. Nazarick adjusted. Not because Nazarick was suddenly kind, because Nazarick was smart. Ainz issued quiet orders. Undead patrols near towns stopped. Public punishments became rarer. Operations moved into shadows and back rooms. Demiurge did not lose interest. He simply changed tactics. "If the rider watches the stage," Demiurge said with a polite smile, "then we will perform off-stage." Sebas hated hearing that. But he could not deny Nazarick was adapting. Albedo hated it too, for a different reason. She wanted clear enemies she could crush. The rider was not crushable. And worse, Ainz had spoken to him. She did not say it out loud, but she felt it like a thorn. Ainz was acting like a leader, not just a conqueror. That was good for Nazarick. It still made her jealous of anything that demanded Ainz's attention. Ainz sat alone later and read the newest reports. He did not feel relief. He felt a new kind of tension. A force he could not fully control now existed in his world. But it also had rules, and rules meant predictability. Predictability meant survival. Ainz whispered to himself, voice too low for anyone else to hear. "If I keep my hands clean in public." He stopped. He knew the sentence was a lie. His hands were not clean. They were just hidden. And he did not know if that would be enough. For humans, the change felt strange. Some villages had fewer undead raids. Some roads became safer at night. because bandits feared fire. But people also feared the rider. Parents warned their children not just about monsters. They warned them about lying. "Don't steal," a mother told her son. "Not because the guard will catch you, because the Skull Knight will know." That was not healthy fear, but it was real. Blue Rose watched these changes from a distance. Evil Eye stood on a rooftop one night and saw a line of fire cut across a far hill. She did not chase it. Not because she was lazy, because chasing it felt like chasing a storm. Lacuse asked, "Do you think he'll fight the Sorcerer King?" Evil Eye stayed quiet for a moment. Then she said, "He won't fight like we do." Gagarin frowned. "What does that mean?" Evil Eye's voice was flat. "It means he doesn't care who wins a war. He cares who deserves pain." Tia asked softly, "And who deserves pain?" Evil Eye looked down at the streets. "At least half the world," she said. Then she added, almost like a warning to herself, "Maybe all of it." The Theocracy tried again to find him. They sent scouts. They spread bait. They set holy traps. Sometimes they found burned circles where the ground was still warm. Sometimes they found shaken soldiers who could not stop shaking. Sometimes they found nothing, because the rider did not walk into the same cage twice, and because his mission was bigger than any one nation. He was a moving boundary line, a line that made kings hesitate, a line that made ancient watchers speak, a line that made monsters plan. That was the new status quo, not peace, not war. A tension that hung over the world like a storm that never fully breaks. The road in the epilogue was quiet. No bandits, no soldiers, no undead. Just wind and distant owl calls. Ghost Rider stopped on a hill that overlooked a small human town. Lights glowed in a few windows. A dog barked once. Then it was quiet again. Farther away, beyond forests and rocks, the land dipped and rose toward a darker region. Nazarick was not visible, but Ghost Rider could feel it. Not a smell like a single murderer. A heavy presence, layered and deep. A place where cruelty could be planned with calm voices. A place that believed it was right because it was strong. Ghost Rider sat on the bike without moving. For a moment, Johnny Blaze's thoughts floated closer to the surface. He remembered being human in a simpler world. He remembered wanting applause. He remembered thinking he could cheat consequences. Now, he was consequences. He looked down at his chain. The links were scarred and blackened. They had wrapped guilty wrists in many worlds. He lifted his skull slightly and watched the town again. Inside one house, a father tucked in a child. The child said something that made the father laugh softly. That sound was small, but it mattered. Ghost Rider did not smile. His skull could not. But the flames lowered, just a little, like a quiet breath. Deep underground, Ainz Uolgound sat at his desk and read another report. Rider sighting, midnight, West Road. Bandit group dispersed. No civilian deaths. Ainz placed the report down. He stared at the candlelight glow in his room. He did not feel safe, but he felt warned. Like the world had gained a new kind of weather. He could not stop storms. He could only build smarter shelters. Elsewhere, in an ancient hidden place, Platinum Dragon Lord stared into darkness and thought, "He refused me." The Dragon Lord's mind turned, slow and dangerous. Then I must choose my own path. In the human lands, leaders whispered about tools and control, and next time. In Nazarick, Demiurge smiled and planned quieter games. In villages, people told stories of a skull that burned. Some stories were prayers. Some were threats. And on the hill, Ghost Rider turned his bike slightly, facing the road again. He did not belong here, but he was here. He revved the engine once. Then he rode forward into the night. fire steady. Not as a king, not as a savior everyone would love, just as the one thing the world could not fully escape. The one that comes when guilt thinks it can hide.